You've probably heard this one. Hunter-gatherers only worked 2 to 4 hours a day. The rest of the time, total leisure, napping, socializing, no boss, no alarm clock, no 40-hour work week. It gets repeated constantly as proof that modern life, with its long hours and endless grind, is somehow a step backward. It's a great story. It's also a significant oversimplification of the actual research it came from. The idea traces back to a specific moment, a 1966 symposium in Chicago called Man the Hunter. Anthropologist Richard Lee presented fieldwork on the Kung people of the Kalahari Desert. His early numbers were striking, just 12 to 19 hours a week spent gathering food. Anthropologist Marshall Solins took that data and ran with it, coining a phrase that would echo for decades: the original affluent society. His argument: hunter-gatherers weren't poor and desperate. They were affluent, not because they had a lot, but because they wanted little and got it easily. The idea spread everywhere: textbooks, documentaries, countless online summaries boiling it down to one irresistible number, a 2 to 4 hour workday. Here's what most retellings leave out. Lee's original 12 to 19 hour figure only counted one specific activity: the act of actively gathering food. It didn't count processing that food. It didn't count making or repairing tools. It didn't count general housework, childcare, or camp maintenance. Lee himself went back and recalculated, factoring all of that in. The real number, once everything was included, roughly 44.5 hours a week for men and 40.1 hours a week for women. That's not a 2 to 4 hour workday. That's close to a standard modern work week. And the number gets shakier still. Anthropologist David Kaplan and others pointed out deeper problems with how the original affluent society data was gathered. Some of the observed groups were recorded during favorable seasons, not the hardest stretches of the year. Some study samples skewed toward able-bodied adults, undercounting the labor of caring for children, the sick, or the elderly. None of this means hunter-gatherer life was miserable, but it does mean the viral 2 to 4 hour version of the story was never really accurate. It was Lee's earliest, narrowest number, stripped of every caveat he later added himself. So does that mean ancient humans had it just as bad as we do? Not quite either. Even Lee's revised, more complete number, 40 to 44 hours a week, comes with an important asterisk. Compare that to a typical modern adult, a 40-hour paid job, plus commuting, plus household chores, plus childcare, often adding up to 50, 60, even more combined hours a week. By that more honest comparison, hunter-gatherer total workloads were often similar to, or somewhat lower than, ours, not dramatically lower, but not worse either. And the structure of that work looked completely different. There was no single boss demanding continuous hours between a rigid start and end time. Work was task-based, not clock-based. Gather what's needed, then stop. It was mixed throughout the day with rest, conversation, and storytelling, not crammed into one continuous block followed by exhaustion. There was no meaningful separation between work life and the rest of life at all. It was all just life. Here's the detail that makes the whole picture even stranger. When humans transitioned to farming, workloads for many populations appear to have gone up, not down. Farming demanded sustained, scheduled labor: planting, tending, harvesting, storing, defending a fixed plot of land and its surplus. Anthropologists studying this shift have argued that agriculture traded a flexible, self-paced work rhythm for a more rigid, demanding one, stored surplus, and the population growth, hierarchy, and vulnerability that came with it. The intuitive story that humanity marched steadily from primitive hardship toward modern ease doesn't really hold up. In terms of raw hours and daily structure, something was arguably lost along the way, long before anyone clocked into an office. So here's the honest, complete version. Hunter-gatherers didn't work a 2 to 4 hour day. That number was always incomplete. But they also weren't trapped in nonstop, exhausting labor either. Their total workload, once properly counted, looks a lot like a modern working adult's, just organized completely differently. Flexible, self-paced, and never separated from the rest of daily life. The real myth was never ancient people worked less. It was the idea that work, rest, and life were ever supposed to be divided into separate boxes in the first place.